What? Beyond. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I'm Max Scoville, Marty Sleva, Brian Altano, and Alana Pierce. I'm really glad I have a PlayStation. That's a good time to have a PlayStation.
Okay, let's just straight off the bat. Was that the best press conference in E3 history?
I think that was the best video game press conference ever.
I feel like that was the best video game press conference that I have ever seen. It is hard to say because we are really high on hype right now, and everyone else had leaks. But I still kind of want to say yes.
I had to pee the entire time, and I just literally couldn't go.
Yeah, you had leaks too.
I had.
It was disgusting.
Yeah, it was insane.
So I think removed from even the energy and the hype of everything, the leaks or not the leaks, I think just like technically the way this thing came together, there wasn't droning on for 20 minutes. There
That's
weren't
exactly what it is.
long interview sections. It just showed awesome game one after another, and I was sitting there watching $60 fly out of my wallet each and every time.
Yeah, dude,
I lost count by the end.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start things out. We got the new God of War, which is just called God of War. Is that
Man,
it?
who would have thought that the show would have started off with a Norse God of War? Like that's.
He's saying that because he predicted
crazy.
that,
Yeah,
and
called
we
that?
said he
Yeah,
was wrong.
that's nuts. Okay, I am loving the fact that this looks like Resident Evil, but feels like The Last of Us.
Right.
I'm loving the fact that the camera is sort of hugging your shoulder in the way that Resident Evil. I mean, since Resident Evil and then Gears and Evil Within. And I love the way it sits there, but the fact that if this is Kratos or if the God of War is sort of a monomyth, that you are now training your son who really doesn't want to kill anything, how to be a killer is incredible to me.
Well, I think what's so fascinating about that is that Kratos has always been this sort of like angry, gruff, just mean dude, and he's just kind of a monster of a person, but you can't really act like that in front of your kid. So reining it in a little bit, all of a sudden he's got to be this responsible adult, and he's actually giving his kid experience, like teaching him what to do here. And with that comes a little sensibility of being a good father, hopefully.
I kind of took it like it was a rebooted version of Kratos and not the Kratos that we had in the other games.
Sure.
Maybe he'll still have the same name, but I feel like it's not the same guy.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that because Kratos was built on the fact that he, in a weird, drunken, stupor rage, murdered his family.
Right.
And obviously, he didn't murder his entire family in this game because he has a son that tags along with him, like Ellie tags along with Joel.
Are they going to have that dragon eat the kid? You know, what do you think? Is he's going to screw up real bad because the kid's too wussy and doesn't shoot the bow and arrow?
I mean, I like it reminded me of in the Tomb Raider reboot how
do you respond to that?
Lara had the moments where like the first time she had to shoot a deer, like she was emotional about it.
Yeah.
She was like, I don't want to do this, but I have to survival.
And that's a very hard turn from the God of War that we had where you had to sacrifice a woman to progress in the game.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's going to be hard for people to take God of War as something that is now intending to be heartwarming, but I mean, that trailer did that for me.
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
We said it on the pre-show that God of War's tone and visual style and sort of aesthetic made sense for the time.
Yes.
And it's a very different time.
I mean,
This is what makes sense now.
Yes.
Clearly, this is the kind of thing it's probably going to alienate some God of War fans, but I mean, what in video games doesn't alienate somebody? So,
But it's going to alienate some God of War fans. But I mean, we've been super critical of God of War on Beyond over the past couple of years, and we came out of this super excited. So I think it's also going to draw in a new audience.
Yeah,
to be honest.
absolutely. I really love the implications of open world stuff here.
Yeah.
I really want to know like what percentage of the game it sort of hinges on this family dynamic. If you play as the kid, like where's this going? Maybe this is Kratos' father, and that's young Kratos there while he still has his hair.
I feel like this could totally be some weird bait and switch thing, like Metal Gear Solid 2, where this is the tutorial or something, and then you're the kid, and it's like a totally different setup.
I mean, the one weird thing is, obviously this does look like this Nordic setting, but at one point it said click in the triggers for Spartan Rage.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that's just a term they're carrying over, or if you are actually Kratos who went on some odyssey. I mean, you could be like Odysseus and like leave your crappy Greek mythology and go to some other mythology.
I mean, I kind of prefer it as a reboot. It's maybe confirmation bias, but I think that I'm seeing it.
You know,
Like, it would be better if it weren't attached to the other games because then
totally
it doesn't have
agree
to
with
worry
you.
about that legacy. And you're right, it's giving me the Last of Us vibes, like really, really strongly, and I hope that it can stick to that.
Yeah.
I want to point out, if we're going to call out the Spartan Rage thing, I want to point out that he says, don't fire the bow. You don't fire a bow. You loose it. I'm sorry. I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to point out there's no
loose the bow.
firing mechanism.
Actually, Kratos.
It's a stick with a string on it that shoots other sticks
Did
at
you
stuff.
just actually titular hero
God
God
of
of War?
I sure did.
You know what else is unbelievable? Dragons. And there's tons of them in this game. They're flying around, and they can probably swoop down and kill your son, and you have to stop them.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest, we need to talk. We have so much to talk about.
We have a lot to talk about. I mean, what do we go to next? Tell me in my ear, Zach. We're gonna talk about Last Guardian. That's coming up.
Yeah.
Yes, that was the second thing we saw.
We got a release date. What is it? October
Yeah, it's coming out. What was it? October 25th?
25th?
Yes,
None of us
I think
remember.
you're right. 25th,
Yeah,
24th.
I'm sorry. There was a lot of other exciting stuff that happened in that conference.
Yeah.
I don't mean to be
Can we
rude and
talk
forget
about
things.
the two bird dogs?
Bird dogs. Evil,
Two bird
the bad
dogs.
dog and the bird dog.
The bad dog and the bird dog.
I don't know why anyone's excited about that, because that means that bird dogs will die in this game.
You are absolutely right. One of the bird dogs is going to die.
Yeah. If there was one throughout the entire game, we might lose him at the end. But because there's multiple, we might lose dozens of bird dogs.
We're also
possibly
seeing
hundreds.
like, enemies in here.
Yes, we
Yeah.
saw these
Which
like
is-
weird sort of mummy statue things that
Yeah.
were chasing you, and they were kind of creepy.
I got weird Zelda vibes from that for
Yeah.
some reason.
Yeah,
It's making me
honestly.
think of Zelda. But the one thing that stands out to me a lot about this is how out of place the protagonist looked. Does anyone else get that?
Yeah.
The environments look beautiful, but then the main character is like cartoony. And Marty and I were saying that maybe the protagonist is actually supposed to be from another world.
Yeah, he looks otherworldly
Yes.
because he is otherworldly.
Right.
Yeah.
He actually
Everything
looks
in this
like-
game looks otherworldly.
He's such a stark juxtaposition
From
to
everything else.
Everything
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
Right, no, he looks like
Yeah.
a kid who lives in the intro town in Wind Waker.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden
Totally.
he's in this game. Like, I like the idea of him just jumping into a different world that has a completely different art style than
Yeah.
the one he grew up in.
Yeah, exactly.
And October, we were saying this game sort of needs to come out this fall
Yeah.
because aside from PSVR, which as of like an hour and a half ago, I wasn't completely
amazing.
sold on, but now I am. But no, we have a traditional PS4 game, coming out October 25th, and
Yeah.
that's, for me, a tentpole for PS4 this year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's cool that they kind of like they've done the sort of long-winded presentation of Last Guardian where it's like the quiet, serene, like, oh, you're gonna knock over a bunch of stuff as this dog, and it's gonna be it's charming, and it's. But this was kind of like the sizzle reel. It was a
Yeah.
bunch of stuff, and it was like, here's a release date. You can buy it when it comes out because it's coming out finally.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
4 or 5 months.
There was a simultaneous sort of round of applause and sigh of relief when they put that up there on the screen.
Yeah,
which is-
we've been waiting for that. I mean, the closest we got last year with the number 2016, which, as we learned with many games this year, means nothing at all.
Yeah.
That's also true.
So speaking of 2016, the year that comes after that is 2017.
Great.
Yeah. They pay me to do this. You wouldn't believe it. But yeah, so Horizon Zero Dawn. That's another game that, oh my God, that looks like if every video game that was good got glued together in a good way.
So some of my favorite parts in Tomb Raider, the Tomb Raider reboot, which I've been just yelling about for years now, is the hunting and gathering kind of
Yes.
stuff, where you just are let out into this area and you have to just fend for yourself and fight and survive and craft and build things and create tools, start fires and stuff like that. I really like the stuff in Far Cry where you pull up the map and you go, oh, gazelles live here. I'll go kill them.
I hate that animal. I want to kill it right
And
now.
I love robots.
Yeah.
So this is awesome. This is some of my favorite things coming together.
I mean, it has other elements that were very briefly shown when the menu was pulled up, like customization. I think there was an inventory and there was crafting.
Yep.
Sorry, it wasn't customization. It was
Rope launching?
that was a thing. No,
Yes.
there was a bunch of stuff that was listed. Hopefully, it comes up that ties into what was said about it potentially having RPG elements. So with customization or crafting, I think
Yeah.
we're gonna be screwing up some robots and getting parts and building weapons. Probably,
totally.
Yeah,
which
and
is-
in the demo, you stumble across an NPC, and it seems like you could sort of initiate a quest or not, and then
and there's dialogue trees.
and there's dialogue trees, and then you.
I love dialogue
yeah.
trees so much.
You open up your map and you zoom out and you see this map is huge, and in order to get to the other side, you can sort of hack a fake animal
Yeah.
and mount
Yes.
it. And I'm like, what? Like, I don't know what this game is, but I'm super
I also
stoked.
love mounts in video games.
Yeah.
They are
Yep.
fantastic. And we also got some really well done voice acting here. So we had a little bit of, two characters fleshed out a little.
Yeah,
she seems super likable.
I was going to say, I'm not usually wild about the sort of like ambient monologue stuff that happens in games where someone's walking around and they're like, I better be careful here. I better take out this. But this actually works really well. And God, this is so gorgeous. Look at this.
Yeah.
Look at that thing.
I know
Look
we
at
got
its butt.
we got that cool boss fight where it was fighting this thing that looked like Metal Gear Rex had a baby with a pile of spiders and a bunch of HR Giger posters.
Yeah.
Like, she just
Yeah.
kind of rolls up and she's like, I wonder what's wrong here. And it's just like, oh, well, there's a giant calamitous nightmare romping
Yeah.
around and ruining stuff. So
Right.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we wanted to, like beforehand, we said we wanted to see more. We want to see more outside that one single conflict. And we did here. It's still sort of a very similar environment in terms of its flora and fauna. I mean, not in terms of its...
Yeah, they all look like car stereos. They're totally familiar. They're
No.
just good old-fashioned regular
I'm just saying
animals.
this environment looks the same. But then she,
Yeah,
like, there was
you're
a weird
right.
crab man.
Yeah. But I mean, we are seeing like weird like just the
crabmen.
old settlements that are torn down, which is like incredibly disturbing to see these sort of like rural German mountaintop villages that are overrun with Decepticons.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued to see them finally say like, oh yeah, this takes place in Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah. She did also make a reference to, just before she got to this point, I think she says, ooh, the town, which makes me think that maybe it's going to be that humans are really, really outnumbered.
Yeah.
And there's been a few of them, and they have to keep moving, and maybe they're being chased by these things, but have figured out how to utilize them.
Yeah, or she seems like someone, like she seems a member of society who's willing to go outside the safety of the town
Could be that,
walls in
yeah.
order to hunt and gather or figure out just what the hell.
It definitely
humanity
seems like it
is.
has a strong narrative direction, which was one of the things I was a little bit worried about initially. I thought that it was just going to be a lot of combat. But
And I
hope
really
we
like the
see
idea
it.
of like farming in this game too, just like fighting these animals for hours on end to find one shard of one piece that might help you make your bow better.
I mean,
Yeah,
we all
find
did tons of that in Far Cry, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think I'm totally getting Far Cry vibes. It's just a lot more unique.
I'm getting vibes of pretty much every video game I've ever played. Like this feels honest. That sounds stupid, but like seriously, it feels like such a, which makes sense because it's this kind of combination of like fantasy elements, like bow and arrow stuff, but also cyborg, robot, animal stuff, and it's it's post-apocalyptic, but it's also medieval.
And
like,
I think it's important to note too that if this video game was released even 10 years ago, this would be entirely sepia toned. But this is like gorgeous. Like look how colorful this is. It's bright. It's adventurous. It's like vibrant. It's fun
That
to look
flowy
at.
hair, though.
Yes, it's great hair.
10 out of
Yeah,
10.
we're a long ways removed from the sort of Unreal Engine gully we were in for a while last generation. The culvert,
Love
if you will.
Scale.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm very excited about this. I really hope, the one thing I really hope is that there's like, that we haven't seen what the entirety of it looks like. Like I hope that there's either some crazy like desert that looks entirely different, or we go to like an abandoned city. Like imagine if like the second half of the game is you wander into a city and it's entirely like, it's like the Sentinels in the Matrix. It's all intertwined with like wires and stuff.
I mean, the map looked pretty big.
Yeah.
So hopefully there's a lot of variety in there.
I mean, that's kind of the best thing we can hope for is some more surprises. On that note, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we get back, we're going to talk about the rest of that conference, and oh dear God, I'm looking forward to that.
IGN Live at E3, presented by Independence Day Resurgence, in theaters June 24th.
We found something out here.
Oh my God.
Why are they screaming?
They're not screaming. They're celebrating. She has arrived. Shouldn't we be nervous? Yeah.
Get over here. Come on. Come in real close. Right there. Come on. Don't be
It's
shy.
safe. It's okay.
All right. Yeah, we're back. Let's just talk about games. Detroit.
Yeah.
Okay, so David Cage has been making kind of these very, very weird interactive story games for some time now, and this looks like, I feel like this is the best possible way to demo a David Cage game.
Yeah.
Because they gave us that like, they took a very small vertical slice, and then they showed us every possible option.
Yes.
Whereas normally they're like, here's like a trailer, or here's like a clip from a movie, but this was kind of like, and it's like, here are all the branching paths for one part that probably isn't a huge part of the game.
Yeah, it felt like if like you beautiful mind a choose your own adventure book and you just saw all the choices sort of exist simultaneously.
Or like an Android version of Groundhog's Day.
Yeah, I can totally get behind
there's-
that.
So some of my favorite moments in Heavy Rain, because I was playing that game while I was working here at IGN, was coming in and having these like sort of water cooler conversations about how people interacted with each scenario differently and how it affected them and how it affected their stories. This looks like that's going to spiral out into so many different directions. With people being able to play these sections completely differently and having different outcomes, like we might be playing entirely different games at the same time. That is so fascinating to me.
You know what's cool is I don't think I'm even going to play this, but I'm going to pretend I am, and I'm going to make up a bunch of stuff that happens.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be like, have you gotten to the wizard in the ice cavern yet? I thought that was weird.
I'm just so skeptical of this kind of thing because so many games boast having so many branching things and your choices matter, and it almost never does. You know,
Right.
we had that with Until Dawn. While I really loved that game, it was like basically the end was the same for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, a
I'm
lot
always
of
very
times it starts in a place, and then you get a bunch of choices in the middle, but all roads lead to a single
Right,
place.
and I want to feel like I'm actually having an impact on the ending of a game, and I don't know if we're going to get that, but I also, from this, don't know what to expect even more than I did before, because the 2 trailers that we got, the one we got last year and this one, completely different.
But they begin with they end with the exact same lines of dialogue
They do.
where they say the character says their name, they said this is my story.
Yeah.
And so I think
Yeah.
it's going to happen, and we're going to get a game filled with vignettes.
Also,
Wow.
incredible trick of David Cage here to hide the fact that the characters in his games usually have very wooden dialogue by just straight up making them robots.
That's a good call. Yeah,
Good move, dude.
Suck it, Uncanny Valley.
Yeah, I mean, I really love the idea that in this single confrontation between what seems like a cop and a dude who's holding a girl hostage, it showed every different outcome, and
Yeah.
like seeing even like minor things where like the bad guy dies, or the bad guy dies this way, or the cops shoot him, or the fact that he trusted you and you betrayed him, or the girl dies. Like that seems crazy to me.
So I think focusing on these sort of like smaller scenarios like this, rather than, I know like the branching dialogue, branching decisions and story trees and stuff like that in games, especially in open world games and stuff like that, never really, they always kind of funnel into the same parts. But here I think you're going to have a lot of these, a lot more kind of intimate scenarios. And they're bringing back a lot of the detective work stuff that we saw in Heavy Rain, which is actually pretty cool. I was into that. Even though it didn't make sense in that game because you're just a cop with like a Google Glass 5 years before it was invented. But here, I think it's really cool. It's just futuristic. And this, what's fascinating about this demo is how completely different it looks than the one we saw last year.
Yeah.
Right, what does that mean?
I don't know.
It's a
I
crazy
mean, I
thing.
feel like this is almost going to be like a collection of like Asimov short stories, where
Yeah.
they all follow the same rules, the same logics, they exist in the same world, and they're like tonally about the same things, but
Yep.
you're handling a single issue from multiple different angles in an
That
attempt to
sounds-
fully
I like
understand
that idea
it.
a lot. I also really love the idea, and I mean, obviously, Heavy Rain has a bunch of different endings and different paths you can go through. But like, it's also a long experience. Like, it's like 8 hours or something to play through that,
Yeah.
and that's like that's like marathoning a Netflix series. Like, that's a season. That's not a thing to sit through. Whereas, if it's something you can do in one sitting, if this is like the length of a movie, if it's 2.5 hours to get from start to finish, whatever that means, of this game, but there are this many different branching paths. Like, that's a pretty cool way to.
If it's replayable, totally, yeah.
yeah.
But the thing with that is, it doesn't seem like a David Cage thing to do.
Yeah.
Have a lot of different stories in one seems like the opposite of what David Cage is trying to do with video games.
Yeah, but like if it was, you said Netflix series, like what if this is like Orphan Black and every story is its own self-contained thing and you can sit down and you can really dig into a single story and see every single outcome.
What if
or
it's
you can,
episodic? They like those
the kids love episodes. Yeah.
I mean, if you look at his last game, it almost kind of did that. Like
Yeah.
the way
Yeah.
it jumped settings, and like one scene, Ellen Page is at a dance party with Willem Dafoe, and a second later she's in Fallujah. Like that's basically him telling completely random stories, but all connected.
I don't think she was ever at a dance party with Willem Dafoe. I
Yes,
think
she was.
Those
They were dates.
separate
It was
scenes.
great. They went together.
They were dates.
And she brought her cool ghost friend, Buster. That was his name, correct?
No, it wasn't.
I
Absolutely
don't
not.
think so.
Let's just
Okay.
talk about more games.
Whatever.
Yeah.
All right. I'm excited about this. One thing I really want to point out is that it doesn't look like anything we already have. Like, there's plenty of sci-fi out there. He's not going for like a strictly obvious like Blade Runner approach. It looks and feels kind of like something sort of new. You know, like it's got unique art direction, and I feel like that's kind of always been his shtick, and I value that a whole lot.
Yeah, there's a little bit of like sort of Philip K. Dick Minority Report stuff in there, which I'm really digging. Yeah, I'm totally with you in that art direction, even like in the HUD and stuff, which is not really prevalent in most of the game, but you see him digging into it and watching like it kind of pan and scan and flip out and zoom back in and showing entirely different scenarios from different perspectives.
Yeah.
Really fascinating.
Also, David Cage's name sounds a lot like Nick Cage's name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leader of the Avengers.
Great job, guys. So moving on, we also got a look at Days Gone, the Sony Bend studio. rose from. It wasn't ashes. They were just hanging out.
They were just on
being
radio silence.
real quiet.
That's what happens when you're in Bend, Oregon, and you're not at like coffee shops in Seattle or in San Francisco, and people are overhearing you. And this is, this is for those of you who don't know, Bend is the studio that became famous with the Siphon Filter series.
Yep.
And then they made Uncharted Golden Abyss for the Vita, which was awesome. And they haven't made a game since then. So they haven't made a game since the Vita launch. And then all of a sudden we come out with this, which it feels like Dead Rising, but with heart.
Yeah, and trauma.
So this is obviously, this is the gameplay here, which we got to look at, and it's really impressive. The crowds look like Dead Rising, but they're scary.
Yeah.
And then the kind of the tone feels very Last of Us, but the zombies
look at
are more traditional, not the cauliflower variety.
That's very World War Z right there too.
Yeah, I also get, we're just naming zombie franchises at this point. But I mean, I also
it
get
is
actual
E3,
The
so-
Walking Dead vibes from this too.
Yeah,
Like
totally.
the actual TV series
Yeah.
rather than the other video games.
Yeah.
And
But
there's
I'm not
motorcycles.
super sold on this.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And what part of it wasn't doing it for you?
It's a zombie game. It's another zombie game, and nothing about it looks very standout. I think while I'm interested, and it definitely looks pretty, and I want to see more of it. This is probably a low point of that.
Yeah,
whole
I mean, it's
conference
tough
for
because
me.
it's our fourth zombie game of E3, and
Exactly.
E3 hasn't started
It's
yet.
Already
Right, yeah.
saturated, and I'm just seeing a guy shooting.
I don't know.
You know
Zombies
what?
in a
I'm
bomb.
going to back you up. I'm totally with you on that. Like this looks like a really good game, but it's still a zombie game.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
I think it's doing something a little more interesting than a lot of the other ones. The sort of the character personality stuff we saw at the top of this trailer. I agree that looking at this right here, you're like, it's a zombie game. But that moment where that guy clearly off screen had just killed someone a little too much, and his friend was kind of like, bro.
Yeah.
Right.
I wish we
rein
could have
it
seen
in.
more of that.
Yeah.
I mean, we're showing the gameplay right now, but the big cinematic trailer they showed that did get me interested for a second.
Yeah.
Because I was wondering, but until they brought up the barbed wire fences, maybe this isn't zombies. Maybe this is just everything went wrong.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
post-apocalyptic
It seemed like
without
a
like a really.
pandemic.
Yeah.
I
like
kind of got the Division vibes.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, the road obviously is very similar to The Last of Us, but The Last of Us still has cauliflower zombies,
Right.
mushrooms, whatever.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, and I was going to say, like, I mean, you don't really think of The Last of Us as a zombie game.
I mean, it is though, right?
It is essentially
Yeah.
because you are fighting some sort of mutated, demonic, undead-looking things.
Yeah.
But it's really about characters and the heart and the personality and the interactions between
Yeah,
the
I
protagonists.
absolutely have faith that this could be that, but this gameplay that we're seeing is a guy mowing down tons of zombies very easily, so I'm not sold. I
Yeah.
will wait to see more
I
to
don't
make
know.
a formal
I'm,
decision.
I'm totally feeling it. I
Yeah.
feel the opposite of you guys. I'm loving the setting. I love the sort of the storytelling, emotional trailer that kicked off the show, and this looks fun. I like the idea of the amount of zombies in Dead Rising, the zombies having the ferocity of a thing like 28 Days Later,
Yep.
but also
Yeah.
the stakes of The Last of Us. I don't know. I can
If
totally
it's
get
like
behind
28 days later or 28 weeks later the
Yeah.
game, then I'm going to love
Yeah.
it.
It
I mean,
could just
we've
be a
gotten-
guy
we've
working
gotten
on
a-
Black Friday.
We've gotten a lot of zombie games, but I feel like we haven't gotten like that definitive one yet,
Yeah.
you know? Like we've gotten the emotional ones, we've gotten the ones that are fun, we've gotten the ones that are like kind of doing their own thing, but like as far as, I mean, this could be it. Who knows?
Yeah.
On that note, speaking of zombie hunting bikers, we got to see Norman Reedus' ass.
Yeah.
And Hideo Kojima's
Good.
beard. So,
10 out of 10.
what's it? It's called Stranding Death. What's it? Death Stranding.
Yeah,
Death
Death
It's a
Stranding.
brand new Kojima
Okay,
game.
but
He
first,
came
can
out.
we talk about how Kojima walked out?
Yeah.
That was the best. He
Yeah, that was
walks
baller.
out to this epic music.
That
and
was the Fury Road
lights.
soundtrack.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that
Yeah.
was so,
So
good.
why I love this specifically, this entrance, is because you think back to the Game Awards when Jeff Keighley was like, Konami wouldn't let him come out. Here he is.
Yeah.
This is how he makes an entrance.
Yeah.
Yeah, screw a
He
red
has his
carpet. That's
own
LEDs,
red
my friend.
carpet. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was so great.
Yeah, and then we saw, we opened the trailer and we're like, well, what are we going to see? Is it going to be Ludens? Is it going to be that weird astronaut space knight skeleton?
Yeah.
And then we get a man's bare ass. We get like the tip of a pangus that we
got
barely see.
We got the weirdest. That was like a really. I mean, it was. I guess we can say that it's Kojima-esque. It's because
Yeah.
it is Kojima. So
Yeah.
it's not Kojima-esque. It's Kojima. It's. I can't swear on here, but it's real bat fart crazy. We got a William Blake quote, and then
Yeah.
we got some giant dead enemy crabs, I guess, and then
Yeah.
there was a baby, and I don't know. I was like hyperventilating when this was happening.
Baby plus Norman Reedus to me means this is Kojima making Silent Hills without restriction, so it's going to be Silent Hill on drugs.
Really?
Yeah.
Because it
That's
totally
what
looks
I
like
think.
Metal Gear. Like
No, man.
the floating bosses, like it looks like 5 Psycho Manuses on a beach. Like
I think that baby being there is totally a reference of
Like, this
me.
is him escaping the captivity that he had at Konami with PT. This
Yep.
is him rescuing the kitchen sink fetus baby and being naked to the world and saying, like, well, this is going to be my creative thing now.
This is how Terminator 2 started,
Yeah.
right? That's like relaunching something. It's being born again. It's being born anew. Like,
God, I'm so excited for this. Like,
There's nothing to say that he couldn't combine Metal Gear and Silent Hill in some way. Like, the fact that Kojima is now unrestricted is Kojami is one of the most exciting things to happen in video games in a super long time.
Yeah. And I do agree that final shot of like the desolation of the ocean, and then you see those like 5 figures floating in the distance.
Yeah. And he has themes he deals with a lot. I mean, the environmental disaster, that was a thing they touched on in Metal Gear Solid 2. Mm-hmm. And I feel I'm getting like Raiden vibes, partially because it's a big CG butt, but
yeah.
I mean, I have no idea what this game is, and I'm incredibly excited.
Also, let's temper expectations. This is a 2019, 2020 game.
Totally. It's going to be forever away, but I've never seen something so vague and been so excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, this was one of the, like, the I don't know, of the 30 things we screamed at and were super excited about during the Sony conference, this was one of them.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like since Metal Gear Solid 2, Konami, or Kojima's, see, I did it too. Kojima's been wanting to, like, make new things. And he got to do, like, Boktai for Game Boy Advance. But as far as, like, starting his own, like, here's my new thing, he hasn't really gotten a lot of freedom. And, like, the Phantom Pain, if you didn't call it Metal Gear, it was announced as not Metal Gear. It was announced as the Phantom Pain. It was some weird thing from, like, a Moby Dick Studios.
Also,
or whatever,
I don't want to keep going into the symbolism of this trailer, but I'm pretty sure this dude stands up and he has 5 dog tags. So is that him saying, like, this is my past? These 5 games were my past?
and these are the 5 ghosts of his past up there.
So good. I'm really happy about this.
Also,
just
Norman
have no idea
Reedus'
what it
character
is.
looks like he had something cut out of him.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Or
mean,
put into him.
Yes.
was it the baby, or was it all those crabs?
Or was it a bomb?
Did he go to Red Lobster, who sounds like a Metal Gear boss?
Norman Reedus sounds like the kind of guy that would have a belly full of crabs.
Yeah.
God, what?
All
Let's
right.
get us out of here.
We're going to take a quick commercial break. You're welcome, Marty. And when we get back, we're going to talk about, oh my God, Star Wars and Spider-Man and Call of Duty and who knows, and Crash Bandicoot. We'll be right back.
IGN's aerial footage of E3 is provided by Independence Day Resurgence, in theaters June 24th.
Your father was the bravest man I've ever seen.
We all lost someone we love.
Oh my God. They're coming back.
Make no mistake, this is humanity's last stand.
We've got to remind them Earth is not for the taking.
Independence Day Resurgence.
Yeah, hey, what's up? How's it going? Welcome back. So we were hearing rumors about a new Spider-Man game.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, well, let's visit that tangled web of who owns the right to a Spider-Man video game. Because at one point it was Activision, and then Sony owns the movies, but they're co-Marvel, who's Disney, and it gets very complicated. And we were all hearing, God, who were we hearing? It wasn't... We thought it was going to be like the guys who do...
we thought it was going to be Sucker Punch.
Yeah, and
was the rumor.
they kind of sucker punched us by, in fact, saying it was Insomniac.
Yeah.
So I'm really, 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 really excited about this.
I mean...
If anyone can make a good Spider-Man game, it's Insomniac.
Yeah. Yeah, I played through, like, Ratchet & Clank, the new one was really fun, but I played through it after a certain point, and I was kind of pretending it was a Guardians of the Galaxy game, and just being like, man, I wish I was playing as Rocket Raccoon right now.
Yeah.
And then crap. Also, like... I know that, there's hype and there's E3 trailers and everything, but, like, there's a lot of game there.
Yeah.
Like, you can tell that this is pretty far along and that they've been managing to keep it, real quiet.
Yeah, and we were talking just an episode or two ago on Beyond about how The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is, or it was just Spider-Man 2?
Yeah.
Is one of the best, it was one of the first and best open world games.
Absolutely.
And still remains
The
that way.
combos in that game, there were side missions, there were gangs and squads. That game is incredible.
Also,
and that was 2 generations ago.
As a former New Yorker, somebody that used to live there, making a game that looks that great in that city that isn't just covered in misery like The Division was. It's so much fun. I want to get to the top of every building in that game and jump off and swing around. It just traversal in those games classically has always been some of the most fun stuff in the world.
Also, I mean, I know it was an Xbox One exclusive, but Sunset Overdrive proved to me that Insomniac, they know the idea of mobility and the idea of a power curve as good as anyone in the industry.
It's exactly what I was going to say. Is in that game you almost feel like Spider-Man anyway. The way that you jump around in that game is so much fun. You never even need a vehicle, and being Spider-Man and getting to jump around the city and do the same thing that I did in Sunset Overdrive.
In Sunset Overdrive, you can get across the entirety of the city without ever touching the ground.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're like, oh, that's what Spider-Man does.
So one of the big things we don't know yet is sort of what the villains will be, how that will work, who else is on your side if you have other superhero protagonists. I mean, we saw that big fat Marvel logo at the beginning. The possibilities are endless in terms of who you can throw in.
We very briefly heard a little bit of voice acting that kind of sounded like the guy who's in
Civil War. So I thought that too, but if you look at his costume's different than the Civil War costume.
You're right.
Yeah, he's got the white spider.
Yeah, they totally nailed the idea of a young boy voice. He doesn't sound like a gruff
Young
old
boy
Spider-Man.
voice.
He sounds like, stop it. It's been a
he
very
sounds
long
excited.
day. Yeah, that's what Spider-Man is.
So Insomniac, they make really good games that are mechanically very sound, but they also really they're colorful and they're fun. They're cheerful, and Rocksteady's Batman games, fantastic, but also very dark and very gritty, and seeing a colorful, bright, the opposite of that. If it's Insomniac's kind of just chipper tune with good old Spidey there swinging around, I'm pretty down with that.
Yeah, totally.
So, I really
What a great surprise that was.
Yeah. On that note, let's shift gears. Call of Duty.
Yeah.
This is the first time that I've seen a Call of Duty demo, and it took me a solid 15. And we know what it is. We know it's in space, but I was still go on. What's happening? And then I was like, is this COD? And they were like, yes, of course. And I'm dumb. But yeah, so this looks like EVE Online. This looks like Dust 514 meets. Yeah.
We were actually saying on our pre-show that this is one of the first Call of Duty games where you could walk by and not exactly immediately identify what it is.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's no way that if I was walking past someone, I would think that this was Call of Duty. I would think it was almost a new IP.
Yeah.
I'm super interested in this.
Yeah. It was also, this came at a confusing point in the trailer because we had that string of VR demos.
And there was never an end?
Yeah, they never said we're out of the VR demos. And so we're watching this. We're like, is this in VR?
This is going to make people really
I'm going to
sick.
throw up so much. Yeah.
But I mean, there looks like a ton of diversity in gameplay as well, and I think the physics of this ship battle specifically looks really good. How floaty it is in the crosshair.
Yeah, and I like the idea of they took elements of classic Call of Duty games. They had the whole breach mechanic, but you breached the window of a ship, and all of a sudden the gravity got sucked out, and then you get in and you use your thrusters to get in and start shooting dudes in slow motion.
I'm really wondering how much of this stuff is sort of on rails or scripted. Is this Star Fox or is this Battlefront dogfighting? How much does this really open up?
Yeah, I guess from Call of Duty I would expect scripted.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's going to be a big kind of set piece. One thing I like is we're going to get to this, but once you get out of the ship, you get a cool grappling hook.
Look at
which
that.
Is, which is interesting
this
because
part
it's
is so cool.
Yeah, this is great. This looks like a lot of fun. We kind of got a tidbit of space Call of Duty and Ghosts, but I feel like this is much more what people would want.
That's super cool.
We didn't see a guy land a ship from a space battle, jump out with a gun, and shoot a guy with a rope.
Yeah. Yes, that's true.
That was
Also,
the first-
I think it's worth noting. It's kind of weird. That grappling hook mechanic looks a lot like the one in Titanfall 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, similar DNA.
It's also, did you see how that grenade worked? It just had it was like a homing grenade because you're in space, and if you threw a grenade, it would just sit in front of you and kill you. So cool.
You know who's going to really, really hate that game is people who like to nitpick science. Because people will be like,
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
It's a good thing he didn't come out.
Neil deGrasse Tyson will not like this Call of Duty.
Oh, shucks.
So next up, we got something that I'm just not even going near, which is Resident Evil 7.
Yeah.
Biohazard. They started us out and they were like, hey, so remember that kitchen demo that we had, which, by the way, is just really just a harrowing thing. That was PlayStation VR demo where you are in a kitchen, and it's awful. It's a really awful kitchen. And they're like, guess what? There's a whole house attached to that kitchen, and it's full of awful stuff, like scary old phones and bad wallpaper, and then there's mannequins. And also, hey, Resident Evil. It looks scary again.
Can I say real quick before we just get really excited about this? I'm really upset that they kept the number 7 in this title. Like, I wish they had just ditched it completely. This is I wanted that hard reboot of just like get rid of Chris and Leon and Albert Wesker punching the boulder and just go into something strange, which they did. I mean, we don't really know anything about these characters just yet, but the fact that they kept that number there is.
Did they really though? It was VI, and then part of the L was also an I. I don't know if it'll officially be called Resident Evil 7 or if that was just a cute. Design.
Sure.
But they also they called it Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. Biohazard is what Resident Evil's called in Japan.
The name might be Resident Evil Biohazard.
Yeah, which would be awesome. And right, there's a demo available for this right now.
Right now
on PlayStation Plus.
Yeah,
so
this was another weird thing where we were like, is this still VR stuff? But then it said demo available now on PS Plus, so it can't be.
I don't think
taking a cue from Silent Hills from PT.
Yes.
I mean, honestly, like we don't know because we literally just came from the show, so the news may have broken and we might have this detail. But it almost sounded like this game could be both.
Yeah.
It could be PSVR as well as just traditional PS4.
Yeah,
also,
they confirmed
Justin
that.
Davis pointed this out. What did that guy expect to find in that pot?
Yeah, just a,
like, what are you gonna open that up and be like, oh, I bet it's a bunch of delicious. Like, look at the rest of this kitchen.
I don't know
it
what
just
I
looks
expected.
I mean,
like
so
a dead staph infection.
Like, I really love horror stuff, and there was a lot of very tropey stuff in this trailer. Like the guy with the mannequin in his house, and the TV that won't turn off, and the gross food in the kitchen and stuff like that. But this is I think the fact that you're going to put on a headset and walk through this yourself makes it completely different than, say, watching like, the 15th Paranormal Activity movie.
Look, honestly, I think this is going to be unplayable in VR.
You think so?
Yes. Anything that is in VR that it is slightly scary, or even things that aren't intended to be scary, when you put them in VR, are terrifying. People's tolerances are super low for things like that. I don't think a lot of people are going to be able to play this in VR. I don't think people will make it out of that first time.
I mean,
I'm gonna try it.
Horror VR is an encroachment of your personal space and safety.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The biggest thing to anyone who hasn't played VR, it's so hard to not just want to take the headset off because you can't even hide behind your hands. It's just you and you're there and you have to deal with what's in front of you and you have no way of hiding.
No, this game should just be called Nope.
I mean,
that's what it should say.
Unless it's very, very short, I really don't think that a lot of people are going to be able to play it. I don't think it would have been probably bad if it were
maybe that's it.
VR.
Maybe it's really short. I mean, people got a lot of mileage out of PT, and that was a pretty
That's absolutely true. But can you imagine playing PT in VR?
Hell no, I don't want to do that.
No,
this is like a very expensive version of those novelty hot sauces that don't taste good. They're just really spicy.
Yeah.
People are like, check this out.
You need a $400 visor to wear it.
Yeah,
People
it's
on
like, this
YouTube
is
are gonna
really
have a lot of
scary.
fun.
You're going to go to the bathroom in your pants.
Yeah.
Yes.
Crap. What are we on to next?
Crap, you're
I'm Crash Bandicoot. I would like to issue a public apology. I did a video yesterday about what are the odds of a Crash Bandicoot remaster? Well, I said I don't think that's going to happen because it's all complicated because who owns the rights to Crash Bandicoot? But apparently we're getting that. So Crash Bandicoot is going to be a Skylander.
Yeah, we talked about that on the pre-show. We were like, hey, there were some of these rumors. We could totally imagine this, but none of us thought we'd get the original Crash trilogy completely remastered for PS4.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense. I'm a lot less surprised by that than I would have been by a new Crash game.
Yeah.
It makes a lot more sense. But it's also, if they're maybe trying to reboot Crash right now and make it relevant to kids again by A, introducing it to Skylanders, B, re-releasing these games, like maybe we will see a new Crash.
I think they're testing the waters with this.
Yeah.
And you're going to get the sort of retro enthusiasts, people who grew up with Crash Bandicoot, everyone at this table. And then you're going to get a bunch of kids who are getting introduced to this character for the first time through Skylanders. You bring all those audiences together, and you take this awesome character model that they just built in this beautiful game, and you just start making a new Crash Bandicoot.
And honestly, I love Skylanders, and I think that Crash will play really well in Skylanders universe too.
Yeah, it makes sense. He's right there with his pal Spyro.
Yeah, and this was the way, we got the Ratchet & Clank, the remasters of the original PS2 trilogy before we got the complete, the new PS4 reboot
and
of Ratchet.
Uncharted before Uncharted 4.
So this sells well. You get folks who loved Crash like in their teens who are now parents, so they're going to buy this, then they're going to get their kids Crash in Skylanders. Kids are going to know who Crash is, and then all of a sudden, it's a name again in video games.
Also, I know that Skylanders isn't really our typical thing that we get stoked about, except for Alana.
I really like Skylanders.
The target demographic.
I just play it like Diablo.
Yeah. Well, I love the idea that you can make your own imaginators. Like I think that that's going to yield some really interesting results where people are making entirely inappropriate things and posting pictures on the internet.
Yeah.
So my main issue with Skylanders was I wasn't connected to any of the characters, and whereas Amiibo, I went in and just started buying tons of them because I grew up with those Nintendo characters, and I'm like, I don't really know who this Rock Lord guy is in Skylanders. But you put Crash there, and it's like, oh man, that's the gateway drug, isn't it? And all of a sudden, I have 20 on my desk at work.
You don't like Rock Lord?
No, do you?
I'm almost positive that's
Drobot
the
is
real
the Lord
Skylander.
of the Rocks. and Tree Rex is pretty neat
Yeah.
too, and I like that jetvac. But anyway, VR is also a thing that's happening later this year. That's October 15th, is that?
Yeah.
For PlayStation VR? That's
Yeah, I mean, I'll be totally honest. I
October
pre-ordered
13th.
I pre-ordered PSVR the moment I could, and then I kind of said, "Why did I do that?"
Well,
And then tonight they answered that for me.
we really, really, really freaked out when they showed
There it
Star
is.
Wars VR.
Yeah.
I was, my face went numb, and I was clapping
numb?
so hard. Shut up.
Yeah, Alana tweeted a video of
I
us
do. I
flipping
have
out
a
live
video
in the
on my
war room.
Twitter of
Yeah.
Max and Brian screaming.
Let's rein in the expectations a little bit. This does have the word mission in it, which means it's just one thing.
Sure.
But I think we'll get more.
Okay, but it's also developed by Criterion Games, the
Yeah.
guys who did Burnout.
Yeah.
Criterion is
So-
so good at dealing with speed, actually.
Yeah.
I think they're really, really good at, the way that the sides of the screen shakes in a Criterion game and giving you the sense of acceleration.
Yeah.
I think that's really important.
Yeah,
to Star Wars.
they made Burnout and they made Black. And both of those games have incredible sound design, and both those games deal with the idea of two objects hitting each other, whether it's a bullet and a solid object or two solid objects, really well.
Yep.
And sort of create like a ballet out of
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
I love the idea of a single trench run or a single X-Wing battle in that tone.
I mean, I think that's going to be a thing we're seeing a lot of with VR is just sort of the experience, the theme park ride approach to things. Brian, you say that, VR mission, not get our hopes up, but weren't you telling me that you played the Burnout demo extensively?
Yeah, I did actually. It was when the Xbox 360 launched, it was one of my most played demos, and I just kept playing it over and over to see how many cars I could crash in the 3-minute span. And I see myself doing that with this, where I'd just come home and I'm like, well, today was rough, or I had a bad night, or there was a long commute or something like that. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to fly an X-Wing for 22 minutes and just put it on my head. I think when we heard about the Battlefront experience at first, people said, well, will I be able to play the first-person shooter mode or dogfight? And I'm like, I don't think we're entirely ready for that yet. Within 5 years, we'll all be so indoctrinated to VR that we'll be able to do stuff like that. But for now, yeah, strap me in an X-Wing and let me just fly through space for a few minutes.
Right on. We also got to look at Final Fantasy in VR, which seems goofy and weird and kind of like a little separate thing.
Yeah, so you play, the whole thing is through Prompto's point of view. He's one of the 4 party members he's the youngest one. He's sort of brash, and he's always has his camera, and he's always taking pictures throughout the day.
A real pervert.
He's a real pervert. And he's always
nasty.
doing, and you see him at the end of the day. But I love the idea that you're going through these scenes in the game as him, and so you're able to sort of experience these things first person from him. And they showed you in the car.
And then we also got a brief look at remember when Rocksteady just lied and said they were done with Batman?
Yep.
And then we're getting a Batman VR experience.
That for me was the best of the VR reveals. I love the Batman Arkham games so much, even Origins. I really liked all of them. I think that this looks absolutely amazing, and just having Mark Hamill's Joker voice tune in there at the start is give me that.
Okay, well we got to wrap things up, but Sony announced there's going to be 50 games at launch, or at least, or whatever, and then of course they've got Gamescom and Paris Games Week and Comic-Con and all kinds of other stuff coming up. PSX. We've got a Nintendo conference tomorrow to find out what they're up to.
Zelda.
E3 hasn't started yet.
Zelda.
This
Zelda.
is nuts. This is so exciting. I'm officially totally rejuvenated in terms of games.
Yeah.
You can find what we're doing right here on IGN. We're all on Twitter. We swear a lot on there. I'm sorry about that. It's only going to get worse throughout the week. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you guys for hanging out with me and doing this whole thing.
Beyond.
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 Beyond. Beyond. Beyond.
Beyond.
Beyond.
Beyond.
You don't like doing that. You don't let them do that.
What?
You said it.